The greatest gift, the greatest moment in my life is that I met the love of my life when I was nearly 50. And it was a very strange experience. I had Thanksgiving dinner with a group of friends who are all now very successful New Yorkers. And we would meet at once. His name was Dick Scanlon, who's a well-known composer, lyricist, book writer. He did Thoroughly Modern Millie, the musical, stuff like that. We all met at his house every Thanksgiving. And it was very convivial and, friends. And on one Thanksgiving, the doorbell rang very late at night, like 10:30 or 11. And this person walked into the room, and I gasped because this was the boy that I had been drawing all my life. I had like 50 portraits of this boy done here in my home. I had never seen him before. I didn't know he existed anywhere, but it was totally him. And I was terrified of him. And I thought, oh, I don't want him to come anywhere near me. This is very weird. But anyway, he made the rounds of the room. Everybody seemed to know him and like him very much. And, it was a very convivial thing. And finally, I was sitting way over in a corner, and he came over and said, Robert, I know who you are, and I'd be very interested to talk to you. And I said, well, you certainly can. And I think he'd never, ever, ever call me, never. And he said, does Dick have your info? And I said, yes, he does. And I thought, well, that's it. And I was kind of right, because a year went by. This exact same story repeated itself a year later at 10:30 or 11 in the evening. The doorbell rang. He came in. He looked even better than the year before. And I again just wanted to be in a quiet corner by myself. I thought, no, I don't want this. So he did his rounds, and he came to me and he said, I really do want to talk to you. And I said, well, that's very nice, and do, because I didn't think he would, and he didn't. So then a mutual friend of ours died, and I was very depressed at this, and I was sort of sitting off, at that ritual breakfast that they have after a funeral. That's so weird to me. Why don't you just go home? But everybody goes to pancakes or something. I was very upset about this. I was sitting in a great big chair, and all of a sudden I realized there was someone sitting on the arm of the chair, and I looked up, and it was him, Bill. And he said, Robert, I have to explain something to you. And I said, well, no, you don't, but if you want to. And he said, I do want to, because I've been living with a man since I'm 17 years old. He was now 24. And he said, he's everything. He's been my entire life. And he's dying. He's lost his eyesight and the use of his limbs. And my entire life is taking care of him. And that's why you haven't heard from me. And I am sincere, and I would like to get to know you. But those are the circumstances. So if and when things change, I'll be in touch. And I was, to say the least, incredibly moved by this. And a period of time went by, maybe another year, and one day the telephone rang, and it was him. And he said, hi, it's Bill. And I said, well, hello, Bill. And he said, the other guy's name was Robert as well. He said, Robert passed away a couple months ago, and I haven't been doing anything, and I would love to go hear some music with you. And I said, well, great. So we made a date, and we went. We went to hear the music, and we got out of the club. It was very awkward, like we were just standing there in front of the Blue Note and saying, well, where do we go from here? And I said, well, good night. And he said, yeah, good night. And he started to walk away, and he said, are you walking the dog? And I said, yeah. And he said, I'll go with you. So he came, we walked the dog. Again, another very awkward pause here in my apartment door. And he said, well, good night. And I said, okay, good night. And he walked away, and then again, 4 steps later, he said, oh, I forgot my briefcase. And I said, oh, okay. And when we got into the elevator to come up here, he said, there is no briefcase. And we were together for the next 4.5 years, every single moment. And it was the most beautiful experience of my life, because number one, just looking at him was a visual banquet for me. I loved his looks. He was disturbed that I had so many drawings that looked like him. And he would say, oh, I don't look like that. And I'd say, yes, you do. So anyway, unfortunately, many beautiful things come to an end, and it did. He succumbed to AIDS, as had his previous man. And the nice part of it is that I'm still madly in love with him. And I like that. It's as vivid to me as it was when he was here.